In the history of Canada, we've had a lot of Aboriginal heroes, but this guy, boys, what a varied life, both on and off screen. Now, he was a residential school survivor to become arguably the best First Nation character actor or supporting actor in movie history, mostly because of performances in The Outlaw Josie Wales and Little Big Man. Of course, it can be only one, Chief Dan George. Now, Chief Dan George, born July 24th, 1899 in Sel-Wamwatut, North Vancouver, BC. Died in North Vancouver in 1981. He was an author, a poet, and an actor. For more than 30 years, from 1951 to 1981, he changed the rules in regards to how we looked at the elders in relation to storytelling, acting, and presenting across North America and the world. Now, born Jeswanut Slahut, he was a chief of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, a Coast Salish band whose First Nation is located on Burn Inlet in the southeast area of the district of North Vancouver. Again, he was an actor, musician, poet, and author. Now, the chief's best-known written work is My Heart Soars. As an actor, he's best remembered of portraying Old Lodge Skins opposite Dustin Hoffman, Little Big Man, for which he was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, which he should have won, and for his role with Clint Eastwood, The Outlaw Josie Wales, as Lone Wati opposite Clint Eastwood. Now, his English name was originally Dan Slaholt. The surname was changed to George when he entered a residential school at age 5. He worked at a number of different jobs, including as a longshoreman, construction worker, and school bus driver, and was band chief of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation from 51 to 63, then called the Burrard Indian Band. In 1960, when he was already 60, he landed his first acting job in the CBC television series Caribou Country as the character Old Antoine Twin. He performed the same role in the Walt Disney Studios film Smith, adapted from the episode of the series The High Chaparral. The episode, in turn, being based on Breaking Smith's Quarter Horse, a novella by Paul St. Pierre. Now, in 1970, at age 71, he received special honors for his role in Arthur Penn's film Little Big Man, including a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Now, he played the most respected elder in the First Nation that adopts Dustin Hoffman, and his words of wisdom and guidance and strength are still quoted from and looked up to, 50-some years later. But, Dustin Hoffman's performance was aided so much by Chief Dan George. We looked differently on Dustin Hoffman. Before that, it was like what he called the grumpy Jew of The Graduate. But with in this case, he showed that what the human beings were really like. Now, in 71, he played Chief Red Cloud in season 13, episode 14, War Burnett, on the Western series Bonanza. He played the role of Rita Joe's father, enjoyed Riga's stage play, The Ecstasy of Rita Joe, and performances at Vancouver, the National Arts Center in Ottawa, and Washington, D.C. A very natural actor. What you saw was what you got. In 1972, he was among the guests in David Winter's television special, The Special London Bridge Special. That same year, he acted in the film Paul Bogart's Cancel My Reservation, and got the recurring role of Chief Moses Charlie in a comedy drama TV series The Beachcombers, a role he would revisit until his death in 81. Now, in 73, he played the role of Ancient Warrior in an episode of the TV show Kung Fu. The same year, George recorded My Blue Heaven with the band Fireweed, with Indian Prayer on the reverse. His album Chief Dan George and Fireweed in Circle was released in 74, comprising these songs and 7 others. The following year, he had roles in Alien Thunder, The Bears and I, and Harry and Tonto. In 75, he portrayed the character Chief Stillwater in the Showdown at Times Square episode in season 6 of McLeod. In 76, he was in The Outlaw Josie Wales and Jordan McGowan's Shadow of the Hawk. On television the following year, he had a role in the 78 miniseries Centennial, based on a book by James A. Michener. In 79, he acted in Americathon and Spirit of the Wind. In 1980, he had his final little film role in the Canadian movie Nothing Personal. Now, George was well known for his poetic writing style, and in 1974, he wrote My Heart Soars, following by My Spirit Soars in 1983, both published by Hancock House Publishers. And he would always present some of his work. Now, these two books were later combined to form The Best of Chief Dan George, which went on to become a bestseller and continues to sell well in 2023. One of his better-known pieces of poetry, A Lament for Confederation, has become one of his most widely known works. Now, Chief Dan George died at Lionsgate Hospital in North Vancouver at the age of 82, and he was interred at Burrard Cemetery. Now, Dan George's granddaughter, Lee Markley, was a poet, author, activist, and professor. His granddaughter, Charlene Alec, is an actress who performed for 18 years on the Beachcombers on CBC. His granddaughter, Joan Phillip, is the BC NDP MLA for Vancouver Mount Pleasant. His great-granddaughter, Kolumpa Bob, is an actress and poet. Now, Chief Dan George's grandnephew, Chief Jesse Nighthawk George, currently resides in Chesapeake, Virginia, and is the Intertribal Peace Chief for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, during his acting career, he worked to promote better understanding by non-Aboriginals of the First Nation people. His soliloquy, Lament for Confederation, an indictment of the appropriation of native territory or European colonialism, was performed at the City of Vancouver celebration of the Canadian Centennial in 1967. This speech is credited with escalating native political activism in Canada and touching off widespread pro-native sentiment among non-natives. Now, Chief Dan George has received numerous accolades. He was nominated Best Supporting Actor and at the Globes and the Academy Awards for Little Big Man. He also won a Best Supporting Actor nomination and won for the New York Film Critics Awards and the National Society of Film Critics, and of course the Laurel Awards. Now, in 1971, George was made Officer in the Order of Canada. He was included on the Golden Rule poster under Native Spirituality with the quote, "We are as much alive as we keep the earth alive." Canadian actor Donald Sutherland narrated the following quote from his poem, "My Heart Soars," in the opening ceremonies of the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. And I quote, "The beauty of the trees, the softness of the air, the fragrance of the grass speaks to me, and my heart soars." Now, legacy. There's a Chief Dan George Middle School in Abbotsford, BC, a Chief Dan George Public School in Toronto, and a Chief Dan George Theatre at the University of Victoria, BC. In 2008, Canada Post issued a postage stamp in its Canadians of Hollywood series featuring, again, Chief Dan George. Now, different events. Smith, Little Big Man, Cancel My Reservation, A Bon Pied Boy, Alien Thunder, The Bears and I, Harry and Tonto, Man Belongs to the Earth, Chief Dan George Speaks, Cold Journey, Outlaw of Josie Wales, Shadow of the Hawk, Pump It Up, Americathon, Spirit of the Wind, where he played Moses, The Incredible Hulk, where he played Lone Wolf, and Nothing Personal. Now, written works, Dan George and Helmut Hernshaw, My Heart Soars, 1974, Dan George and Helmut Hernshaw, My Spirit Soars, 1982, Hilda Mortimer and Dan George, Who Call Me Chief, Impressions of the Life of Chief Dan George by Doubleday, 1981, and of course Dan George and Helmut Herschel, The Best of Chief Dan George, Surrey, BC, Hancock House, 2003. Now, if you really want to see the best of Chief Dan George, check out the early scenes with Hoffman, It Is a Good Day to Die. But he has that speech when he goes blind and he's laying down and he wants to die, and like he said, this is not the time. But Aboriginal humor is very strong in our culture, and you see that in Chief Dan George. And Johnny Carson said it best. I think he was a guest on Johnny Carson once, or something about it. I never thought an Aboriginal person would have a sense of humor. We have a great sense of humor. You have to be, because the white man came in. We taught them how to cook and hunt and all that, and eventually took all their land. See, we're sharing people. And when we share, we laugh with you, which means we accept you. So Chief Dan George, I think down the road, I'd like to see him get a posthumous Oscar. That'd be really good for the influence he's had on Aboriginal cinema. Because as Buffy St. Marie, I think, said in one of her documentaries on her life, he said there was only a few people who was being Chief Dan George and a few others, Aboriginal people on the screen. But I don't think ever Chief Dan George didn't do anything but himself. He was a proud man. And I don't think... some person asked him once, he said, "Are you doing it for the money?" He said, "No, I just like doing it." So that sums it up. So that's the legacy of the great Chief Dan George. If you like what we're doing here with our Aboriginal podcast, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.